Hey everybody, it's AJ and Eric back for your favorite Detroit sports show, Beyond the Box, where last night we dug into the highlight tapes of Tyree Wilson, and it looked good. It's a highlight tape, we get that. But we discussed, should the Lions take him at 6, and so tonight is all about Tyree Wilson. We're going to deep dive him, the impact that he could have on the Lions defense, the fit that he would be inside the Lions defense. But then we also want to ask the question, is he worth the hype? Or would the Lions be settling for him? All of that and more is coming your way tonight on Beyond the Box. All right, Eric, let's jump right into Tyree Wilson. Listen, he's an exciting player. As one of the commenters, Steve O, last night said, he has the highest ceiling he thinks of anyone in this entire draft. Maybe, maybe not. We still are Will Anderson people. We love Will Anderson.
Willie style.
But Tyree Wilson is intriguing. Very much so. I wonder, what's the fit with the defensive scheme that the Lions have for Tyree Wilson?
I don't want to say it changes, but he maybe gives you a couple different options on how you could play. He's a big guy, 6'6", 270 if I'm not mistaken, 275. He's kind of bordering the line as a hybrid tackle or edge rusher. Yeah. And he would just give you a different blend of what you could throw. I mean, he could overpower a tackle on the opposite end of Aiden Hutchinson, or maybe could slide next to Aiden and play the tackle next to Bugs or however else they plan to do it. He gives you that option to be able to do that. I think his physical ability gives you the ability to be a game breaker. Like, he does things with his wingspan and his strength that you can't game plan for. And having that at your disposal where you could play with a defensive line that could wear your O-line down by the beginning of the second half, that's a huge benefit to have. And I think that would be the obvious number one strength for him with the Detroit Lions if he were to be drafted.
So that's exciting,
it is.
Right? And maybe you're like, okay, I've heard the name, but maybe I don't know that much about Tyree Wilson. So let's talk about Tyree Wilson, right? As a Texas Tech Red Raider, he's a fifth-year senior, which means he redshirted 1 year. Started his college career at Texas A&M, did not really go so well, but he broke out, according to PFF, in 2022. So, and I'll show you how he broke out. He only played 388 snaps in 2020 and graded out at a 52.3. His snaps almost doubled to 605 in 2021 and graded out at 72.7. And then he did deal with a foot injury towards the end of this last season, so he only got 533 snaps, or 38 snaps, I'm sorry, but he graded out at a 74.5. And his pass rush grade was a 79.4.
I like that.
So one of the higher grades that you're going to get. This is a guy that has come on late, known as a late bloomer, right? We all love them. He's not necessarily a project, but a late bloomer, and somebody that the Lions are very high on. In fact, there were reports, and we put one out on Detroit Sports Nation, that the Lions have given Tyree Wilson a very, very high grade, which makes you think he's one of the names on their board for number 6 for sure.
And he's one of the more slept on names, which is kind of crazy because defensive line is the unit that everybody has been harping on all off season. And we talked about, cornerbacks. We've talked about the need for linebackers, D tackles, trading up for Will Anderson. And outside of Steve-O, I haven't seen a lot of love for Tyree Wilson. And I think he will be a perfect fit for what they need. it would just kind of change to give them different options on what they could do depending on how they play him on that D line.
He plays in a Big 12 defense.
He does, yeah.
Right? And so there could be that knock, right? He's not Will Anderson at Alabama, who's always at the top, right? Big 12 defenses are historically bad. I mean, just giving up. I mean, it's literally, can we outgun you, not can we stop you?
No defense over there,
right? I mean, look at TCU playing Michigan in the college football playoff, right? It was, their defense was not great. No. Made a couple of big plays, but and so maybe that's the potential reason why he could be being slept on. But that does kind of lead to the question that we're asking for this whole show. Is he like a diamond in the rough, next big thing in the NFL because of what he's being slept on?
Maybe. I don't know if I want to say that, because he's in a weird position because there's two guys ahead of him that people feel like are supposedly correct. But there's at least for let's say there's one for now. There's one guy playing at Alabama, star potential. You see him every weekend. You're always watching Bama play. You've seen him jump off the screen. Texas Tech, we didn't necessarily see that. He's a guy that you got to pay attention to and watch closely to understand his impact. And I don't know if he would necessarily be a star or like a diamond in the rough type player, but I do think he would have benefit with this team. And it's kind of like, to an extent, what we talk about with Jared Goff. If you're going to get a player that high, you're going to want to see some extreme bang for that buck. And if he's just coming in to be aight or just be serviceable,
right?
That's the question mark for me. I'm not saying he can't play. It's just how big of that impact is he going to have based on what that D-line needs.
I don't think that he's coming in to just be serviceable.
Right.
I think that the reason Dan Campbell talked about the it factor, right?
Right.
And there's only a few guys that I've talked to that have had it. The fact that he has a high grade leads me to believe he has
Think he's one of those guys? Okay.
And there was one thing that I read from PFF. So if you give me like just 1 second, one of his pros. Uncoachable mentality to attack the man in front of him with reckless abandon.
That's
now
tough.
Tell me who that sounds like.
Sounds like Aaron Donald to me.
Sounds like Dan Campbell. Are you kidding me?
Dan Campbell. Yeah. Dan Campbell type of guy.
Uncoachable mentality to attack the man in front of him. I don't care if you have 3 butt cheeks and 2 knees or whatever he said during Hard Knocks. Like, that's an uncoachable mentality to attack somebody with reckless abandon. Like, it seems like that's a fit. So if that's a fit, let's then talk about, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons of drafting a Tyree Wilson? And maybe why is that a reason he's being slept on? We watched the highlight tape. You've done your research. I've done my research. What do you see? A couple of strengths, a couple of weaknesses that could be problematic.
The strengths that jump off the board, I mean, they're pretty obvious. Looking at him, he's a big dude, very long arms, which is a super benefit to have. I don't like short-armed defensive lineman, defensive tackle. I like guys with big arms that could, be impact players. I love seeing J.J. Watt, not for how he used to get after the quarterback, but how impactful he was in swatting passes down and impacting the game that way. Like, that is a huge benefit to have. And knowing he can line up anywhere on the field, or at least on that line, is another benefit and aspect for him. I feel like, I don't want to say this is necessarily a weakness for him, but to me, I haven't seen it. People say that he's like, I see a little bit of elusivity, but I haven't seen enough of it to say that he's not more than just a power rusher. To me, that's what I see. I think he'll be somebody that could be helpful in run support, which is something huge that this Lions team needs. I'm not sure how versatile he'll be as a pass rusher, because for me, all I saw was a bull rusher from the power side. That's all I saw. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more if they line him up in different positions, but that's what I saw so far from that.
Well, I mean, the scouts do agree with you. I mean, literally, NFL.com, hands need to become more skilled and violent as a pro rusher.
Yeah.
Play can be upright and narrow at the point of attack, slow to process movement, and loses contain. Like, so there's definitely that bull rush mentality. Right. Here's what I liked about him. Number one, you already mentioned it. The size is, you can't teach size, right? When you're 6'6", 275 and can move the way that he moves, that's uncoachable. So that's already right out the gate pro. But his positional versatility, and you've hit on it a little bit already, but even unknown positional ability is something that intrigues me about Tyree Wilson.
Okay.
Let me explain. Okay. In college, he played inside linebacker and outside linebacker. I don't know the last time I saw a 6'6", 275 outside linebacker, inside linebacker. That sounds like a nightmare. Yeah. Sounds like somebody who would be set up for failure in the NFL.
Fair.
However, knowing that he is pretty set on bull rushing, knowing that he's massively athletic, knowing that he's massive, you can move him off the edge and slide him into the wash a little bit. Use that athleticism in a different way, getting hands up in passing lanes. I mean, we've seen, and I've even heard on local radio, some analysts talking about how more athletic the interior defensive line is getting.
Absolutely.
Right? This could be that guy for the Lions, which would fill a need in a way. However, I don't necessarily like the fact that he is slow off the ball.
Okay.
We saw that. Even in highlight tapes, we saw that. Very hesitant in his first step, which is dangerous for a defensive lineman in the NFL. Now, he picks up speed and he has playable speed when he gets up to speed. But it's literally a freight train, as I compared it last night on the live. It's not a quick first step. It's going to take momentum to get going. Potentially why I would maybe beef him up a little bit, slide him inside. Right. But I can live with that. That's not necessarily a deal breaker for me, right? It's something that I think is, again, an intriguing name at number 6 should the Lions be picking from number 6.
Yeah. You speak to a lot that could be. Again, if that's what the grade for Dan Campbell would be, it would make a lot of sense. I could see him being that guy, especially knowing that he and Aaron Glenn love versatility from all levels. They don't like just one guy sitting in one position. They like you being able to stand up, put your hand on the ground, blitz, drop in coverage. They want to see everything. And I think I'll wait for this. I'm going to wait for this question to ask you a little later because we're going to talk about him compared to the other guys. But I think that does serve as a benefit. And maybe his versatility is somewhat limited, but that's okay if it's going to be dominance from the tackle position. But yeah, it's going to be a lot, I believe, that'll probably have to be rounded out to really get that best impact out of him.
So we want to talk about his potential in the NFL. But before we get to that potential, let's talk to the people about GearUpDetroit.shop.
Let's talk about it, Detroit sports fans. Did you know you can now rep your favorite team in style without even leaving this page? Gear Up Detroit store is now available right here on YouTube, just below the video you're watching right now.
That's right. You can browse through our range of high-quality, unique, and stylish merchandise for all your favorite Detroit sports teams, the Lions, the Tigers, the Red Wings, and the Pistons. By the way, Tigers are doing pretty well now. Without missing a moment of your favorite Detroit sports show, Beyond the Box.
Also, if you want to explore even more awesome gear, you can always visit GearUpDetroit.shop for a full range of tees, hoodies, hats, and more, all designed by talented local artists.
So gear up for the next game or your draft party that's coming up next week that we'll be a part of because you'll be there with us. Support local creators and make a statement with Gear Up Detroit. And remember, you can shop right here on YouTube down below the video or visit gearupdetroit.shop. Tyree Wilson at number 6. The Lions pick him there. What is the potential for him, given what we've discussed? The pros, the cons, the collegiate stats. What's the potential for a guy like him at number 6?
I feel like he has the upside of a high-end role player, like kind of what we see and what we're projecting for an Aleem McNeil to an extent. I don't know if I see star potential from him immediately. I feel like he's going to be a guy that his best impact is going to be what you see from the line and the defense as a collective. Like Hutch, I feel like Hutch could be a star from dominating and just being Hutch. I feel like if you see guys like maybe like Tyree Wilson or the guys like Aleem McNeil, I feel like their best value is going to be seen from how the entire unit is playing. I feel like he does have tremendous upside. I do like the versatility that he brings. I'm just not sure if he's going to be that. Like, a lot of people get stuck on where people are drafted. And I think if he's not popping off the screen, I could maybe see frustration from Lions fans that maybe he's not well they wanted him to be, especially if we want Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, 2 guys that we believe are going to flash off the screen at every possession. I'm not sure if I see that yet with Wilson. I could be wrong. I'll be the first to admit if I am, but I just feel like he can serve a little bit more as a role player based on what his position is.
That's interesting that you say that. And I'm going to actually make the call to action right now for our fans. Because I want to know what they say based on what you just said. Do you agree with Eric that at number 6, you're getting a role player whose impact is going to be seen more through the team's success than maybe his own star power? Let us know in the comments. We've given you everything you need to know about Tyree Wilson. He was a good collegiate player at the end, a late bloomer. He's got some cons against him. A little slow off the ball. Really only has one move. But he's got a lot of potential and a lot of upside. And is a very intriguing name at number 6. Let us know what you think in the comments below on Tyree Wilson coming to the Lions at number 6. Now, Eric, your statement in the last segment leads me to the question that will kind of wrap this all up. If you're drafting a role player at number 6, are the Lions settling? And is Tyree Wilson worth the hype?
Oh, man. Maybe a little bit. Maybe there's a little settlement there because to me, like, and I said this on the live, I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into it now. If the Lions end up drafting him, I'm not gonna be upset. I do think he's gonna be a good player. I think he's a good fit, and it makes sense based on what their needs are. But if he's drafted before Jalen Carter, I'm gonna have a problem. I don't think, like, to me. And I wanted to kind of like pose this question to you. To me, what I like a little bit more, I like versatility, but I also like especially for young players, I like some players being able to come in and just dominate at one thing. Like being able to step into one position and just conquer that as they grow as players. I feel like that's what Jalen Carter is going to be able to do. Maybe for Tyree Wilson, depending on how they use him, I don't know how quick we're going to see the reward of that versatility, especially if it takes a while from him to round off his skills, understand the play skills and the speed of the NFL, and finding a groove in terms of being a versatile. Like, it took a while for Hutch, like a little bit, like to really settle in and find his groove as a rusher. And I just feel like it might be a little difficult for what the Lions are looking for, especially if they're trying to win right away. So to me, I think there could be a little settling to that if he's picked. If he's taken before Jalen Carter, in my opinion.
Does that affect your trust in Brad Holmes though?
No,
Because that's what I hear. That's what I hear a little bit, right? Because listen, and I told you last night on the live. We've always said Anderson, Carter, 1A, 1B, and I like Carter as a football player. I've got no problem drafting him. But if Tyree Wilson can move inside and be that guy, I don't want to overstate the case. I don't know if it's settling. It does feel like a settle a little bit, and maybe that's more of an emotional thing because it's like I really want Will Anderson, so I hope they're not picking at 6. I don't know. I get what you're saying, but would that affect your trust in Brad Holmes if he passed on Jalen Carter?
I don't think it would impact my trust. I'd be a little upset, but at the very least, they're still addressing defensive line. They're still getting a good player that makes sense. It's not like if you pass on Jalen Carter to get Devin Witherspoon, I'm gonna have a problem with that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like at least, the very least, you're getting a guy that makes sense for what they're looking for. And yeah, I just think Jalen Carter is gonna be a better player. I could be wrong on that, but in terms of the direction of what they're looking for, I think something in that D line, especially again when you're trying to maximize that pick, that D line is going to be the highest value of it for this Detroit Lion team in the draft. So it wouldn't knock my trust that much. No.
So I'm thinking about this, right? And I'm thinking about, okay, are they settling? I'm like going back and forth, right? And then I started to think, like, what some concerns with drafting Wilson. He's not a project. We know he's not a project. We know that he can perform on a field. We know that he's a good athlete. One of his greatest assets is his size, 6'6", 275. Could that asset, though, also be a big concern? He's 6'6", 275. Yeah. That guy could be an injury concern. He hurt his foot last year out of Texas Tech. Big guys, that not necessarily hefty guys, but like tall guys that play interior line. I don't know how, and maybe moving him interior is a terrible idea, and I should never have suggested that because of the wash and getting piled up on and limbs hanging out, and you know what I mean? That concerns me the more that I think about it. I agree with the commenters last night that he probably has one of the higher ceilings in this draft. I still think Anderson is the best product overall. I still think Anderson is the best player in this draft overall. I won't be upset if they draft him at 6 over Carter.
You won't?
I won't.
Oh, wow.
No.
Wow. Okay.
I won't be upset. Because, again, I'm going to go back to what I said previously in previous episodes. I think I'm just going to be to the point where I'm like, okay, Brad, I trust you. Now, there are some things that could hinder that trust or affect that trust, like a Devin Witherspoon at 6 over a Jalen Carter at 6, right? But there's very few of those moves that would really upset me.
Okay.
So I think if they walk away from number 6 with either Will Anderson, which I think is going to have to be a trade-up, but if they walk away from number 6, using number 6 to get Will Anderson somehow, either through trade or draft, because he fell there by the mercies of everything that's holy, or they walk away with Jalen Carter, or they walk away with Tyree Wilson, I think they've set themselves up for success.
I agree.
Because I think that he is a little bit more than a role player. Like, I think that he could walk in and have not a Hutch type impact.
No, I don't see that.
That's not. No. You probably think so, but not me. I do think that he would have an impact, though. It would change the way that Anthony Lynn draws up the defense.
Aaron Glenn.
Aaron
But
Glenn.
I think
I'm the worst.
no, yeah,
with
it's
names.
okay. That threw me off.
Anthony Lynn was the offensive coordinator that got fired, wasn't he?
That Johnson or Ben Johnson took over for. It's okay. We're gonna scratch that. Don't mind, audience.
It
Everybody
all worked out fine. We got Ben Johnson.
I guess-
I called somebody doggone Kirk Cameron last night. Who knows what's going on
week for
anymore in
AJ.
this noggin?
I'm looking at it from maybe like a basketball point of view, because in the NBA, the new term of the evolution of players is positionless. And I don't necessarily want to see that yet. I don't want to see them try to do that with a Tyree Wilson. I want them to find a lane that works for him, so he can maybe work on some of those raw
Be the
tools.
most
Exactly.
successful.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
a little more high on Jalen Carter, because he's get the quarterback, clog the space. That's his responsibility. I think Wilson, they may be a little too greedy. Like, it would make sense to do that for somebody like a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's a veteran, a DB. That makes sense. But a young rookie coming in, I'm a little worried that may be a way they use him, and that could put him in the position of being a role player.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. He's a guy that likes to hit guys. That's what matters when you play defensive
Check
line.
one. Good.
So answer this question as we
Okay.
end the night. Positive or negative? Is Tyree Wilson a good fit for the Detroit Lions?
Tyree Wilson is a very good fit for the Detroit Lions. I think there are more than enough resources for him to succeed, as long as the Lions put a game plan in front of him that works. They have a D-line foundation that works and puts him in a position to be productive. I think he'll be just fine. I do think he's productive. It'll be a good thing. What about you?
I think he's a good fit. I think he works. I think there's a reason he's number 3 on our list. I don't think we would have him number 3 if we did not think he was a
Right.
good fit. There's a reason there's no quarterbacks on this list. Regardless, he's a good fit. And it's all going to come April 27th, Eric, when the draft comes. And if you are as excited about the draft as we are as excited about the draft, then we've got a treat for you.
A big treat. Join us for our exclusive 2023 NFL Draft Live show, where your favorite analysts, AJ, yours truly, and Dylan will be breaking down each first round pick as it happens. That's right, we'll be reacting live to all the drama, surprises, and jaw-dropping moments of the NFL Draft.
And guess what? We want you, our favorite people, to interact with us, your favorite sports show, throughout the entire first round. Share your thoughts, your reactions, predictions in the live comments, and your 2 favorite sports hosts, along with Dylan, who's also going to become a favorite sports host of yours too, will interact with you. Don't miss the chance to engage fellow Lions fans and your favorite Detroit sports show.
Talk to us and mark your calendar for the 2023 NFL Draft Live show, April 27th. We're getting closer and closer, hosted by Detroit Sports Nation. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single moment of this epic event.
We will see you there, and go Lions. Now, Eric, as we wrap up, we've talked about Tyree Wilson. We've talked about him a lot. We both believe that he can be a good fit for the Detroit Lions. He was a productive college player towards the end of his college career, broke out in 2022. High remarks from Pro Football Focus, NFL.com, giving him comps to Ezekiel Ansah. PFF says Jason Pierre-Paul. Another one of our commenters last night said True Tella said Trey Flowers as a Patriot, not as a Lion. This is a good thing for the Lions. And it makes the draft more intriguing. We have no idea what's going to happen in the draft. It's all going to get crazy after that first pick. But it's going to be fun.
I'm ready for it.
And Tyree Wilson is a name that you should know. Do not sleep on him like other people may be sleeping on him, because he will make the Lions better. That is going to do it for us. I'm AJ. He's Eric. This is your favorite Detroit sports show, Beyond the Box. We'll be with you Thursday night live at 9 o'clock as we discuss our fourth prospect that we think the Lions could take at number 6. We will see you there. Until then, be safe. Have a great night. And as always, go Lions.